They hurt you, they took from you, they left you for dead, but they forgot one thing: you are still here. They thought they could break you, that you would disappear into the shadows, that your silence would be permanent. They thought you would stay down, buried beneath their lies, crushed under the weight of their betrayal. But they were wrong. You've been living in the wreckage of what they did to you, drowning in the echoes of their cruelty. The wounds they inflicted still sting, the words they spoke still haunt you. You hear them in the quiet moments, whispering doubts into your mind, making you believe that you are powerless, that your story ended when they decided to rewrite it. But let me tell you something. They don't get to decide how this story ends. You do. You have spent too long carrying the weight of their actions, letting their choices define your existence. You have been walking through life shackled to a past you never asked for, a past that keeps pulling you back every time you try to move forward. But not anymore. Today, right now, in this very moment, the tables are turning. This is not just a speech. This is not just a collection of words meant to inspire you for a fleeting second before you fall back into the cycle of doubt and hesitation. No, this is a war cry. This is a reckoning. This is the moment you stop being the victim and become the one in control. You feel it, don't you? That flicker of fire in your chest, that deep, burning anger mixed with sorrow, mixed with the unbearable weight of injustice. You've been told to suppress it, to bury it, to let it go, as if your pain was never real, as if your suffering was just another lesson in patience. But they don't understand. They don't know what it's like to wake up every morning and feel the same knife twisting in your soul. They don't know what it's like to carry the memory of betrayal in your bones. But I know. I know you've spent nights staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment, every word, every scar they left on you. I know you've wondered if you'll ever escape it, if you'll ever be free of them. But freedom doesn't come from forgetting. It doesn't come from pretending it never happened. Freedom comes from taking back the power they stole from you. Freedom comes from standing up and saying, enough. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are not the shattered remains of what they did to you. You are a force of nature waiting to rise, a storm waiting to break. And now, it's time. Time to step out of the wreckage and claim what is yours. Time to stop waiting for someone to save you and realize that the only person who can pull you out of this darkness is you. You can't change what happened. You can't rewrite the past. But you can control what happens next. And what happens next is entirely in your hands. So tell me, are you going to let them win? Are you going to let their actions dictate the rest of your life? Or are you ready to take back control? Because if you are, then listen closely. This isn't just about moving on. This isn't about healing in silence, about turning the other cheek and pretending you don't still feel the fire in your chest. No, this is about transformation. This is about stepping into the power they never wanted you to realize you had. They wanted you weak. They wanted you silent. They wanted you broken. But you are none of those things. You are here. You are still standing. And now, you are the one who decides what happens next. So take a breath. Let the rage settle into something sharp, something focused. Let the pain harden into something unbreakable. Let the past fuel you, not destroy you. And when you walk forward from this moment, do not walk as the person they hurt. Walk as the person they fear. You carry it with you, don't you? The weight of what they did. The invisible wound, the scar no one else can see, but one you feel every second of every day. It doesn't matter how much time has passed, whether it was yesterday, last year, or a lifetime ago, because the past is still alive inside you, their words, their actions, the way they twisted your trust into something sharp enough to cut you open. It all lingers like a shadow you can't escape. They carved their name into your soul, didn't they? They made you believe that you were nothing without them, that you were small, unworthy, disposable. They whispered lies into your ear until their voice became your own, until you started doubting yourself, questioning everything, wondering if maybe, just maybe, they were right. That's what betrayal does. It doesn't just hurt, it rewires your mind. It makes you look in the mirror and see a stranger staring back at you, someone who doesn't even recognize their own worth anymore. And the worst part? The world tells you to get over it, to let it go, to move on like it never happened. But how? How do you erase something that is stitched into the very fabric of your being? How do you forget a wound that still bleeds beneath your skin? They don't understand. They don't know what it's like to be blindsided, to have someone you trusted turn into the very thing that destroys you. They don't know what it's like to watch someone you loved, someone you gave everything to, walk away without a second thought. They don't know what it's like to replay it over and over, searching for the moment it all went wrong, searching for the mistake you made that let the knife slip between your ribs. But hear me when I say this. You were never the mistake. You were never the problem. The betrayal was not a reflection of your worth. It was a reflection of them, of their emptiness, their weakness, their inability to love without destroying. And yet here you are, still carrying the burden as if it was yours to bear. Still clutching onto the pain as if letting it go would mean letting them win. The villain in your story isn't just them, it's the doubt they planted inside you. It's the voice in your head that tells you you're not enough. It's the hesitation every time you try to trust again. It's the way you flinch when someone gets too close, the way you build walls so high that even you can't see over them. The enemy isn't just the one who betrayed you, it's the fear that they left behind. And I know you've tried to move forward. You've told yourself that it doesn't matter, that you're fine, that you've learned to live with it. But that's the thing about wounds left to fester. They don't heal. They grow, they spread, they consume. You can pretend all you want, but deep down you know the truth. The past still has its claws in you. It still dictates the way you live, the way you love, the way you look at yourself. But let me ask you something. How much longer are you going to let them hold that power? How much longer are you going to let their choices define your life? They hurt you once, but every day you let their actions shape your future, you are the one keeping the pain alive. And I know, that's not what you want to hear. But the truth doesn't care about comfort. And the truth only cares about setting you free. So here's the reality. The weight you are carrying, it's not yours. It was never yours. It was theirs. Their betrayal, their selfishness, their weakness. But somehow, you've been the one suffering for it. You've been the one carrying the shame, the regret, the endless cycle of what ifs. You've been the one living in the wreckage they left behind. But here's the thing about wreckage. You can either sit in it, letting it suffocate you, or you can rise from it, stronger, sharper, wiser. They thought they broke you, but all they did was give you something they never had. The power to rebuild, the power to take back control, the power to decide that they don't get to define your story anymore. So tell me, are you ready? Ready to drop the weight? Ready to let go? Not for them, not to make peace with the past, but for you, because the past will keep you chained if you let it. But if you choose, you can leave it behind and step into something greater. It starts now. It starts with the decision to stop giving them space in your heart, your mind, your future. It starts with you. There was a time when you thought you wouldn't make it, a time when the weight of it all felt like it would crush you, when breathing felt like a chore, when every morning was a battle you weren't sure you had the strength to fight. You didn't just feel lost, you felt abandoned. The world didn't just turn its back on you, it watched you suffer, and it did nothing. It let you fall. It let you break. It let you drown in the silence of your own pain. And the worst part? No one saw it. No one noticed the storm raging inside you, the war being fought behind your eyes. You smiled when they expected you to, laughed when the moment called for it, answered "I'm fine" even when every inch of you was screaming for help. Because what choice did you have? No one wants to hear the truth. No one wants to carry the weight of someone else's darkness. So you learn to hold it alone. You learn to suffocate in silence. You remember those nights, don't you? The ones where sleep never came, where the memories clawed their way back into your mind, whispering, taunting, reminding you of everything you lost. The nights when your thoughts became your enemy, when the walls of your mind became a prison, when the only voice you could hear was the one telling you that it would never get better, that this was it, that this was all you would ever be. A broken thing, a ghost of the person you used to be. And you wanted to fight. You wanted to claw your way out. But every time you tried, something pulled you back. The weight of the past, the echoes of their betrayal, the voice in your head that told you it was pointless, that the pain was permanent, that you would never escape it. You questioned everything, your worth, your strength, your very existence. Were you ever meant to rise, or were you always destined to stay here in the darkness, forgotten and defeated? The world made you feel powerless. It made you believe that you were small, that your voice didn't matter, that your pain was just another insignificant tragedy in a world too full of them. And after a while, you started to believe it. You started to accept the idea that maybe this was your fate. Maybe you weren't meant to be more. Maybe you weren't meant to heal. Maybe this was all there was. But deep down, buried beneath the despair, beneath the exhaustion, beneath the unbearable loneliness, there was something else. Something small, something fragile, but something real. A flicker, a whisper, a refusal. A part of you that wasn't ready to give up. A part of you that, despite everything, still wanted to fight. But that part of you, it's drowning, it's gasping for air, clawing for a way out, begging you to listen. Can you hear it? Can you feel it? Or have you let the darkness consume you so completely that you can't even recognize your own strength anymore? This isn't the end of your story, not yet. But if you stay here, if you let this abyss swallow you whole, it will be. And that's the question, isn't it? Will you let it? Will you let this be your grave, your final resting place, your quiet surrender? Or will you take one more breath, one more step, one more chance? Because if you do, if you just hold on a little longer, something incredible is waiting for you on the other side. Something greater than the pain, something stronger than the past. But you have to want it. You have to fight for it. So tell me, are you ready to rise, or will you let the abyss claim you? They told you stories designed to keep you small. They whispered them to you when you were young, wove them into the fabric of your existence, made them sound like truth until you could no longer tell the difference between their lies and your own thoughts. They didn't just break you, they programmed you. They planted ideas so deep inside your mind that even now, after everything, you still hesitate to question them. They told you that you were weak, that the world was too big, too cruel, too unforgiving for someone like you to ever stand a chance. They told you that your voice didn't matter, that your dreams were too unrealistic, that your pain was something you just had to endure. They told you to accept the betrayal, accept the loss, accept your place as something less. They made you believe that love meant sacrifice, that in order to be worthy you had to give and give until there was nothing left of you, that if people hurt you it was because you weren't enough, not kind enough, not strong enough, not good enough. They convinced you that their neglect, their betrayal, their cruelty was a reflection of your worth, when in reality it was only ever a reflection of theirs. And then they told you the biggest lie of all, that revenge is poison, that anger is dangerous, that pain should be buried, ignored, silenced, that the righteous fire burning inside you should be extinguished before it consumes you. But what if they were wrong? What if that fire wasn't meant to destroy you? What if it was meant to forge you? What if revenge isn't poison? What if it's power? Not the kind of revenge they warned you about. Not the petty kind, not the reckless kind, not the kind that seeks destruction for destruction's sake. No, the kind that turns pain into fuel, the kind that transforms suffering into strength, the kind that takes every scar, every wound, every moment of weakness, and turns it into something unbreakable. They don't want you to know this. They don't want you to understand that the very thing they tried to take from you, the fire, the fight, the hunger to rise, is the very thing that can set you free. Because if you knew, you wouldn't stay small, you wouldn't stay silent, you wouldn't stay in the chains they wrapped around you. But now you do. Now you see it for what it is. Every lie, every manipulation, every attempt to keep you caged, they were afraid. Afraid of what would happen if you ever realized your own power. Afraid of what you would become if you ever stopped believing in their version of you and started creating your own. And now, the choice is yours. You can keep living by their rules, keep carrying the weight of their lies, keep letting them define what you are allowed to be. Or you can break the chains, you can rewrite the story, you can take back every stolen piece of yourself and rebuild something they never saw coming, someone unstoppable. So tell me, are you ready to reclaim what's yours? You thought you were weak. You thought the pain made you smaller, that every wound, every betrayal, every moment of suffering stripped away a piece of you until there was nothing left but a hollow shell. You thought they had won, that the fire inside you had burned out, leaving behind only ashes. But I see something else. I see the embers, still smoldering, still alive, waiting for the moment you finally stop suffocating them. I see the storm that has been growing inside you, silent and unseen, waiting for the day you remember who the hell you are. You have spent so long believing the world's version of you, believing the story they told you, believing the lie that pain was only meant to break you. But what if it was never meant to destroy? What if it was meant to forge? Every scar on your soul, every tear you shed, every moment you thought you wouldn't survive, those were not losses. Those were battles won. You don't carry wounds, you carry war paint. Every time you were knocked down, every time they made you doubt yourself, every time you felt like you had nothing left to give, you still got back up. Maybe you crawled, maybe you barely made it, but you made it, and that means something. You were never weak. You were only ever waiting for the moment you realized your own power. And that moment is now. They told you to suppress it, to push it all down, to pretend it didn't matter. They told you to let it go, the rage, the betrayal, the hunger to prove them wrong. But why? Why should you let it go when it's the very thing that's going to set you free? Stop running from it. Stop numbing it. Stop pretending it doesn't exist. Because that fire inside you, it's not your enemy. It's your weapon. You've spent too long making yourself small, trying to fit into the mold they built for you. But that mold was never meant to hold you. It was meant to contain you. And now you are about to shatter it. You don't need their validation. You don't need their approval. You don't need them to see your worth before you claim it for yourself. You were powerful before they hurt you. You are powerful because of it. Now, take everything they did, everything they said, everything they made you feel, and use it to fuel the next step. Use it to push forward when the doubts creep in. Use it to build yourself into something greater than they ever imagined. Because this is the turning point. This is where the past stops controlling you and you start controlling it. This is where the fire they tried to put out burns brighter than ever. So tell me, are you ready to stop running? Are you ready to stop waiting for permission to be who you were always meant to be? Then light the match and let it burn. There are only two paths before you now, two choices, two futures. The first is the path you already know, the one where you stay in the shadows, still haunted by the past, still chained to the pain they left you with. It's the easy path, the one that requires nothing of you but surrender. Stay here and nothing changes. Stay here and you never have to risk, never have to fight, never have to face the truth that you were always meant for more. Stay here and you remain exactly what they wanted you to be. Small, afraid, controlled. And then there's the second path, the one where you rise, the one where you become the master of your own fate, the one where you stop waiting for the world to hand you permission to take what's yours, and instead, you take it. This is the path of power, the path where the past no longer defines you, where the pain no longer chains you, where the fire that once threatened to consume you now fuels your every move. But it's not an easy path. It will demand everything from you. It will ask you to let go of who you were, to shed the version of yourself that was built by fear, by doubt, by the lies they planted inside you. It will require you to own your pain instead of running from it. It will require you to stand in your own power, even when it terrifies you. And that's the choice, isn't it? To remain the slave or to become the master. Because make no mistake, you have been a slave to your memories, to your fears, to the expectations they placed on you, a slave to the idea that you are nothing more than what happened to you. And if you stay here, if you choose comfort over transformation, if you choose to sit in the ruins instead of building something new, then you are making a choice to let them win, a choice to let them define your story, a choice to let them control your fate, even when they are no longer in your life. But tell me, is that really how this ends? After everything, after the suffering, after the betrayal, after the nights you barely survived, after all of that, you're really going to hand them the victory? You're really going to let their actions write the final chapter of your story? Or will you take the pen back? Because that's what this moment is. It's the moment you decide whether you are the victim or the author, whether you remain trapped or take control. No more waiting, no more hesitation, no more letting the past make decisions for you. This is the moment you choose. So what's it going to be? Can you feel it? That shift deep inside you? The moment everything changes, the weight you've been carrying for so long, the chains you thought were permanent, the doubts that whispered their poison into your mind, it's all starting to crack, to break, to fall away. The past no longer holds you hostage. The pain no longer defines you, the person you were, the one they hurt, the one they underestimated, the one they thought would never rise. That version of you is gone. Because now, you are something else. You are no longer fragile. You are no longer a prisoner of your own mind. The fire that once flickered inside you has roared into an inferno, and this time, no one is going to put it out. The world doesn't get to break you anymore. The people who hurt you no longer hold power here. You are unbreakable. You are fearless. You are a force of nature, and they never saw it coming. They thought you would stay small. They thought you would stay silent. They thought they could bury you beneath their betrayal, their lies, their indifference. But they forgot something. You weren't broken. You were just waiting to awaken, waiting for this moment, waiting to become the person you were always meant to be. Look at yourself now, the strength in your stance, the steel in your eyes, the power humming beneath your skin. You don't walk the way you used to. You don't tiptoe, afraid of taking up too much space. You own every step. You don't speak the way you used to. You don't shrink your words, don't soften your voice to make others comfortable. You say what needs to be said and the world listens. This version of you, it was never missing. It was never lost. It was always there, waiting, growing, preparing for this very moment. And now, nothing can stop you. Repeat it. Let it sink into your bones. Let it become the foundation of the life you are about to build. You were never broken. You were just waiting to awaken. You were never broken. And now you rise. Look at how the tables have turned. Once they had the power. Once they controlled the narrative. They made the rules, set the traps, dictated how you saw yourself. They thought they owned you, your thoughts, your emotions, your reactions. They thought you would always dance to their tune, always be bound by their words, always remain a prisoner of the wounds they inflicted. But now Now the power is yours. Because here's the truth. The strongest revenge is not rage. It's not destruction. It's not proving them wrong with desperate, hollow victories. The strongest revenge is indifference. It's looking at everything they did, every way they tried to break you, and feeling nothing. No anger, no hatred, no need for validation, because they don't matter anymore. They used to live in your mind, they used to haunt your thoughts, pull your strings, keep you shackled to their actions. But not anymore. Now you live in theirs. Now every step you take without them, every moment you thrive, every time you show up as the strongest, most unshakable version of yourself, it's they who are left with the ghost of what they lost. You don't need to chase revenge. You don't need to waste your energy trying to make them see what they did. That's their burden to carry, not yours. You have bigger things ahead, a future they are no longer a part of, and that is the true power. You don't just walk away, you rise so high, they can never reach you again. You don't just move on, you become so focused on your own power, your own destiny, that their existence becomes irrelevant. They don't get to define you. They don't get to write the next chapter. They are nothing but a forgotten lesson in a book you have long since outgrown. So take back control. Take back your story. Take back everything they stole from you and rewrite it on your terms, because this is your life now, and they're just part of the past. This is it. The moment everything changes. The final step in your transformation. Not just from broken to whole, not just from powerless to strong, but from someone who survived to someone who now owns everything ahead. Because rising was never the goal, transcendence was. This was never about getting even, never about proving anything to them, never about showing them what they lost. Because when you truly awaken, when you step into your power, when you claim your place in this world, you don't look back. You don't waste your time chasing ghosts. You don't lower yourself to their level just to seek validation from people who never deserved a piece of you to begin with. You don't just rise. You rise so high they become irrelevant. This was never about revenge. This was about freedom. Freedom from their words, their expectations, their manipulations, their power over your mind. This was about stepping into the version of yourself that was always waiting beneath the surface. The version they tried to bury, the version they feared you would become. And now you are untouchable. No more proving yourself, no more explaining, no more seeking closure, no more waiting for apologies that will never come. You don't need them. You never did. They were nothing more than a detour, a lesson, a catalyst to becoming the force you are now. They wanted you broken. They wanted you small. They wanted you doubting, hesitating, trapped in a life they dictate. But you are none of those things. You are no longer the victim. You are the storm they never saw coming.